Ever get bitten by that treasure hunting bug?
Hmm.
Today, we're diving into a story that's, well, practically synonymous with gold fever.
Okay.
The legend of El Dorado.
Yeah.
You know, the one, the mythical city of gold that sent explorers on a mad dash through the Americas.
Right.
But just how much of this tale is actually rooted in, well, reality?
Yeah. That's the question, isn't it?
That's what we're here to find out.
Okay. Exactly.
We're going to separate, or at least try to, the myth from the history here.
Okay.
Digging into, the cultural beliefs and misunderstandings that kind of fueled this whole enduring legend.
It's a fascinating story.
And joining us is, well, you, our expert, ready to shed some light on the real story behind El Dorado. Well, it's amazing how a few, grains of gold dust could spark such a relentless and ultimately kind of tragic chapter in history.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really something. So let's rewind to the beginning. Before El Dorado became this global obsession,
Okay.
it was tied to a very specific place and people.
Right.
Our sources point us to the Muisca people of Colombia, and specifically this ritual on Lake Guatavita that would ignite imaginations for centuries to come.
Yeah.
So picture this, okay?
Yeah.
A new chieftain, like completely covered, head to toe in gold dust.
Wow.
Heads out to the middle of this lake on a ceremonial boat.
Okay.
And get this, he's not alone, right? His followers are tossing jewels and precious objects into the lake as, offerings.
Wow, it's an incredible image.
Can you imagine the scene? The sunlight, the gold reflecting off of everything.
It's almost impossible, like something straight out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds almost impossible. So what kind of impact do you think that visual spectacle, that image, had on the Spanish conquistadors who stumbled upon it?
You've really hit on the crux of the matter, because, you see, the Spanish, arriving fresh from their conquests in the Inca and Aztec empires, were already, they were primed for gold.
Right.
They saw this ritual not as a sacred ceremony, but as proof positive of unimaginable wealth.
So instead of recognizing, the religious significance, the cultural significance, they just saw dollar signs.
Essentially, yes. The conquistadors completely misinterpreted the Muisca's reverence for gold, their connection to nature. To the Muisca, gold wasn't just a commodity. It was sacred. It was symbolic of the sun's energy and their god's power.
That's a completely different worldview than the conquistadors who, as you said, were fresh off of,
Exactly. To understand how the myth of El Dorado really took hold, we need to consider how differently the Spanish viewed the world.
Okay.
They arrived with this sense of cultural superiority, fueled by their recent victories, and a belief that their religion and pursuit of wealth were, completely justified. They simply couldn't comprehend the Muisca's spiritual practices.
It's like a textbook case of what they call, cultural clash.
Absolutely.
And you throw in the allure of gold. It's a recipe for misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
So how did this misinterpretation morph into this full-blown legend? Was it just word of mouth?
Yeah, rumors of a gilded one, El Dorado, in Spanish, spread like wildfire, really.
Right.
And each retelling added another layer of exaggeration, fueled by the Spanish conquistadors' own ambition and, let's be honest, their greed.
Right.
The idea of a city made entirely of gold, a real-life El Dorado, well, it quickly captured the imagination.
It's incredible how quickly a story can spiral, especially when there's gold involved.
Yeah.
So we've got this, potent mix of misunderstanding and ambition and, let's face it, some serious wishful thinking going on here.
Yeah.
But, rumors alone don't explain the lengths to which these conquistadors went, right?
Right.
So what happened next? Did they just blindly charge into the unknown fueled by gold fever?
You're not far off. Imagine being back in Spain, hearing these tales of a city overflowing with gold. It's easy to see how the lure of El Dorado became, irresistible.
It's like the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme, but on a massive, massive scale.
Exactly. And some of the most famous conquistadors of the time, we're talking names like Gonzalo Pizarro and Francisco de Orellana. They were quick to organize expeditions.
Yeah.
And these weren't, sightseeing tours.
Oh, no, definitely not. Our sources paint a pretty grim picture of these expeditions.
Yeah.
We're talking starvation, disease, constant conflicts with the indigenous groups.
Right.
It sounds every bit as brutal and unforgiving as, those old adventure stories, but in real life.
Absolutely. These explorers face unimaginable hardships, trekking through dense jungles, battling the elements, and often, clashing with the very people they believed held the key to El Dorado.
And all for a city that, well, as we know, didn't actually exist.
Right.
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about the human cost of this obsession.
Yeah.
Do our sources delve into, the impact that these expeditions had on the indigenous populations?
Unfortunately, yes, they do. The quest for El Dorado had a devastating impact on the indigenous people of South America. Just imagine your homeland being overrun by heavily armed explorers who are convinced that you're hiding a city of gold.
Yeah, yeah.
Villages were ransacked, sacred sites desecrated, all in the name of this elusive prize.
It's a stark reminder that the pursuit of wealth and glory often comes at a very hefty price.
Yeah.
And it's a price that's usually paid for by those who are, well, the most vulnerable.
Precisely. It's easy to, get caught up in the romance of exploration, the adventure of it all.
Right.
But it's crucial to acknowledge the darker side of this history.
Mm-hmm.
The exploitation, the violence, and the lasting consequences for these indigenous communities.
It's a sobering thought. So for years, these explorers, they searched, they endured these unimaginable hardships, only to come up, well, empty-handed.
Yeah.
No shimmering city, no streets paved with gold, nothing.
Right.
At what point did they start to realize that El Dorado might not be what they had imagined? It's almost ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
They were so focused on finding this, physical city of gold that they completely overlooked, well, the real treasure.
Yeah.
The resilience of the human spirit, the power of belief.
It's quite a thought.
It really is. It makes you wonder, even after all those failed expeditions, why did this myth persist?
Right.
Why didn't El Dorado just fade away?
That's the heart of the story, isn't it? Because while those early explorers, they never unearthed the city of gold.
Right.
Their relentless pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
it speaks to something much deeper, I think.
Deeper.
Something embedded in our human psyche.
Okay.
The allure of the unknown, the desire for something more, something extraordinary.
So El Dorado transformed into something bigger than itself.
Yeah.
It became less about the actual gold and more about what it represented.
Exactly. It became this potent symbol, the embodiment of ambition, aspiration that drive within us, that pushes us to explore, to strive for something beyond our reach.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful idea, one that transcends time and culture.
Which is probably why, we're still talking about El Dorado, 500 years later?
Right.
It's popped up everywhere. Books, movies, even video games.
It's every.
The name alone just conjures up this sense of adventure and possibility.
Absolutely. It's a story that continues to resonate. It reminds us of our own capacity for hope, our relentless pursuit of dreams. But it also serves as, well, maybe as a cautionary tale, too, a reminder of the fine line between, ambition and obsession, the importance of considering the consequences of our actions.
It's this fascinating paradox,
Yeah.
This tale of greed and destruction that also manages to capture something very human, something hopeful. It makes you think about your own El Dorados, What are those dreams or aspirations that drive you? Even if they seem, impossible to reach, what are those things that keep you exploring, that keep you striving for something more?
Those are the questions worth pondering. What are the El Dorados that beckon you forward, both literally and metaphorically?
It's definitely something to think about. And on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this incredible journey, unpacking, well, the history and the enduring power of the El Dorado legend. And to you, our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep dreaming, but maybe pack a map and some good walking shoes just in case. You never know what you might find on your own quest for El Dorado.